I
Like,
don't have an ex-boyfriend.
what?
Yeah.
Amy, you're absolutely beautiful.
Oh my god, no.
This movie opens with Sutter, an 18-year-old teenage boy who is trying to answer a question for a college application. Describe a challenge or hardship you have experienced in your life. Sutter begins to tell about the time before he got dumped by his girlfriend and how they were the life of the party. The teen begins to describe the reason they broke up. It all started when he wanted to get his best friend, Ricky, a woman to sleep with. Driving in the car, some girls asked them if they could have some beers. Later in a pitch, Ricky leaves with the girl in the canoe and Sutter stayed in the car with the other girl. Cassidy, his girlfriend, found out about them and thought he was cheating on her, so she breaks up with him. Later at night, Sutter heads to a party where he starts flirting with some women, dancing and making a fool of himself. Because he is very drunk, they walk away from him and leave him alone. The next day, Sutter wakes up lying on the floor with a girl his age standing in front of him. She helps him up. Sutter asks how she knows his name, and she tells him they go to the same school and introduces herself. Her name is Amy. She explains that it is 6 in the morning, and she is on a paper route since her mother had stayed at the casino that night. Sutter offers to accompany her since he had to find his car. In the car, Sutter tossed out the papers while Amy drove. Sutter asks her if she kept all the money from work, and she said that only a little. Sutter tells her that he had a lot of fun, and that they should hang out on Monday. Later, Sutter talks to his friend Ricky and tells him about Amy. He explains that he has no romantic interest in her, but that he wants to help her because her mother forces her to work. Later at school, the geometry teacher, Mr. Astor, tells Sutter to stay after class. Sutter hadn't done his homework, so Mr. Astor tells him that he doesn't want him to fail his class and wants him to pass. They do their homework together, and then Sutter runs out of there into the dining room where Amy is there waiting for him. While they were talking, Amy's friend, Crystal, interrupts and says that they now had French class and were running late. Sutter asks Amy if she can help him with his geometry homework. She agrees and gives him her number to call her. Later, Sutter, who works selling ties, serves customers while he keeps alcohol in a small bottle. He talks to a man named Dan who owns the store. At Amy's house, Sutter knocks on the door to receive tutoring from her. The two head towards Amy's room, which had paintings hanging on the walls. She explains about her love of books, especially science fiction. Sutter grabs a comic and points to a drawing of a girl who was a hero in Galaxy. Amy says that she knows it's weird, but Sutter says that is not. Amy begins to teach Sutter about geometry, and then he invites her to a party on Saturday to go with him. She accepts and thanks him. Amy and Sutter arrive at the party together. Sutter approaches some friends and introduces them to Amy, who stays talking to the boys while Sutter walked away to talk to Cassidy. Together they go for a beer, but before they could start talking, Marcus shows up and takes her away. He goes to find Amy and offers her a drink from the bottle. Sutter says that he's been drinking for quite a while and talks about the first beer he had with his father. Amy asks about him and Sutter tells her that he's a plane pilot and he travels all over the country. He also complains about his mother and says that she made him leave a while ago. Amy says that they have the same mother, since that same day she had entered the university in Philadelphia where her sister lives, but her mother does not let her go. Sutter says that her mother is already a grown woman and can support herself. He tells her that she has to start stand up for herself and makes her repeat, "Mom, get off my mother thing back." She starts to say it. He asks about her ex-boyfriends, but Amy replies that she never had an ex-boyfriend. A surprised Sutter asks why, but she tells them that boys don't see her that way. Sutter tells her that she is beautiful and kisses her. The next day at his house, Sutter wakes up hungover from the last night. He begins to remember about the kiss he gave Amy and that he invited her to go to prom with him. Later, Amy sends him a voice message saying that she didn't get any messages about studying that day. Sutter ignores and texts Cassidy instead, telling her to hang out. At Cassidy's house, he tells her that whenever they're together, they're inseparable and that they always have fun. But Cassidy says they don't always have to have fun. Cassidy starts crying and tells them that he is drunk and that she couldn't be with him anymore, so he leaves. While driving, Sutter takes a detour to go to Amy's house. He invites her to go to a dinner right then and there at her sister's house, and she accepts. Her sister, her husband, and 2 of their friends were in the house. As they talk, Sutter tells her sister and her husband that they were an amazing couple and that now all couples get divorced, using her and Amy's parents as an example. Amy says that her parents were not divorced, but that her father had died of problems with painkillers. An awkward silence ensues, but she says that her marriage is going to work. She is going to work at NASA and her husband is going to do something totally different. The sister's husband says that she has dreams, and she says that it is good to have them. Outside the house at night, Amy asks Sutter if he really meant what he said at a party about asking her to prom. He says that he really wanted to go with her. Then he kisses her. The other day at school, Sutter talks to Ricky about Amy. He tells him that he is attracted to her and that she is very beautiful. His friend tells him that he is going to break her heart, and Sutter says that in the worst case scenario, she is going to have the experience of a breakup. At Amy's house, she tells him that she likes him a lot while they are sitting on her bed. They take off their shirts and start kissing. Then they have sex. Later, Sutter confesses to Amy that his father is not a pilot and that he invented it. He hasn't seen him for years, and his mother doesn't let him get in touch. Her, impressed, says to make a pact. They were going to confront their mothers if the other did. Sutter agrees. On prom night, sitting on top of a car, Sutter gives Amy a present. It's a little bottle like the one he had with his name on it. When they arrive to the party, they sit down at a table and start drinking. Cassidy was dancing with Marcus, and Sutter couldn't stop looking at her. Cassidy notices and walks over to the table to tell them to go dance. Amy refuses, but Sutter goes. Later, he comes back and offers Amy to dance a slow song with him. She accepts. In the hallway at school, Amy tells Sutter that her sister called her and told her that in Philadelphia she was going to have a job at a bookstore. They start talking, and Amy tells him that she's been thinking and she thinks he should go to Philadelphia with her. They could live together and get a job. She asks him what he thinks, and he says that is great. The next day at school, Amy says that she already talked to her mother, and although they argued, she confronted her, and finally she will be able to go to university. She says that now he would have to do it. Sutter refuses, but then later he goes to the hospital where his mother works to tell her that he wants to call his father. She declines and says to have the conversation later. Sutter says that's why he dumped her and storms off. At his sister's house, Sutter tells her that he wants to talk to their father, and he asks her what happened between them. His sister explains that he cheated on her, but Sutter responds saying that there are two sides to every story. He asks if she can tell her mother to give him his phone number, but she says it's not necessary since she already has it. She goes inside to get the paper with a number on it and gives it to him. In his room, Sutter calls out to his father, whose name is Tommy. At first, he doesn't recognize him, but then he asks him if he still plays ball. Sutter asks if he can go see him. The father accepts. Later, Sutter and Amy are driving to see his father. Arriving at the house, Sutter knocks on the door, and when Tommy opens it, he does not recognize him, but Sutter hugs him and introduces him to Amy. Tommy says that he met him at a bad time and that he was going to a bar to meet some friends. Sutter and Amy agree to go. Arriving at this bar, Tommy introduces him to a young blonde woman who seems to be his girlfriend. They sit down and order some drinks. Sutter says that the song that was playing was very good. The father says that's what his mother listens to. Sutter says that he didn't think she was a fun person, and his father answered by saying that when he met her, she was the most fun in the world. Surprised by his answer, Sutter asks what happened between them. Even though she blames him, she always stands up for him. His father says that it is the fault of the two, but that his mother did not throw him out of the house. He left voluntarily. He says that he wanted to be there for his children, but he couldn't. After that, Tommy tells Sutter and Amy to pay since he had to go with a friend. He tells them to meet him at his house in an hour. While waiting at the house, Sutter gets frustrated when he doesn't see him and walks away. Later at night, he stops at the bar and sees his father with his friends drinking and smoking. Sutter drives back to his house, and as he gets drunk, Amy tries to cheer him up. She tells him that she loves him, and Sutter tells her that she is wrong, that she is drunk and happy that someone is paying attention to her. While they were arguing, Sutter almost crashed the car, but luckily they stayed on the sidewalk. She's scared and asks him if he's okay, but angry with himself, he asks what is wrong with her. He almost killed her, and she was worried about him. Sutter says that he is bad for her and she needs to get away. He throws her out of a car, and when she gets off, a car hits her. At the hospital, Amy is on a stretcher, but she is fine. A doctor tells Sutter if he prefers to go to the police or call his parents, he calls his mother, who goes to look for him. The next day at Amy's house, Sutter asks her how she feels and kisses her. She tells him that they don't have to talk about what happened since she doesn't want anything to get in the way of their plans to go to Philadelphia. After a few weeks, Sutter graduates. At the ceremony, Amy asks about her family. He tells her that he hadn't told them. After Amy leaves with Crystal, Cassidy appears and tells him that she is going to California with Marcus. He offers to go visit her, but she says better not. Before leaving, she approaches him and tells him that he is the best ex-boyfriend of hers. In the clothing store where Sutter works, Dan tells him that he had to reduce the work staff. He tells Sutter that he'll let him keep the job if he promises that he won't come drunk anymore, but Sutter can't promise that, so he leaves. Days later at the bus station, Amy waits for Sutter to leave to Philadelphia. Sutter, who is driving in the car, sees her but decides not to get off. Amy calls out to him, but he doesn't answer. She gets on the bus and eventually walks away from him. Sutter gets off at a bar and gets drunk. Arriving at his house, Sutter bumps into a plant. His mother goes outside and scolds him, but Sutter was angry. In the kitchen, his mother tells him that she always tried to protect him, but Sutter confesses that he already knew his father and that he is just like him. His mother tells him that he is not the same, that he had a big heart, and that he always helped people since he was a little boy. Sutter cries and says that nobody loves him, but his mother says that he is wrong and hugs him. At the end of the movie, Sutter answers the college question from the beginning. He says that he is 18 years old and that he didn't have many hardships compared to other guys, but that his biggest challenge was always himself. He was always afraid of failure, letting people down and hurting them, always shutting down his pain. He says that the best part of today is that there is a tomorrow and he will let it count. Later we see Sutter driving somewhere, and we can see him arrive at the University of Philadelphia that Amy was at, who sees him and smiles. I would recommend this movie to everyone who loves coming of ages. The relationship between Sutter and Amy is adorable, and I love the message that this film gives to all young people who are going through the same as Sutter. Please don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe. Comment below what you want to see us work on next.